I'm about to unleash on my 7-10 Dallas Cowboys as I watch them blow a last-second game at home, grand finale to lose to our arch rival Washington Commanders. And I'm also going to unleash quickly on two quarterbacks, top pick quarterbacks that I have defended from day one. Baker Mayfield and Bryce Young, congratulations. You both had yourselves a game. But back to the Cowboys. I'm going to try to stay positive. I'm going to try to hit the bright spots from a year that just tore my soul out watching it, especially starting with the Green Bay playoff loss last year and the 5 straight home losses to start the season, all of them basically over by halftime. Bright spots. Quarterbacks I have loved and defended. Trey Young. I said before his draft, I said, go get him, whoever, San Francisco. I said he would be the top quarterback in that draft. And Mike Shanahan and Kyle Shanahan, who I have the utmost offensive respect for, traded 3 firsts and a third to go up and snatch him with the second overall pick. Trey Lance threw him right in the fire. He got hurt. He had 2 or 3 different injuries. He got battered. He lost his confidence, and he wound up going to my Dallas Cowboys for a 4th-round pick. I couldn't defend what happened in the preseason. He got to play a lot, and he finished up by throwing 5 interceptions in the final preseason game against the Los Angeles Chargers. He should have played more this year. He should have played 3 games ago, but he did get to play today, and I saw flashes of greatness, and I don't throw that word around loosely. He's got the size. He's your basic 6'4", 225. He can move. He can run. You didn't see that much of that today, but he's got a big arm, nice arm. He just needs to rebuild his confidence, and he made 6 or 8 throws today that were big-time NFL passes. He made 2 throws in the 4th quarter that could have been, maybe should have been touchdowns. I thought the Jake Ferguson catch was a touchdown. I thought he got both toes in bounds simultaneously, and I thought he did control the ball to the ground. I thought he had his right hand, or at least right fingers, underneath the ball, and it got denied. Could have changed the game. But Bryce Young went 20 of 34 for 244. Not bad. Didn't turn it over, which was great. No interceptions, no lost fumbles, but no touchdown passes. Something to build on. I'm pretty sure Cooper Rush will be gone. I thought, going back, 3 years ago, as Tony Romo predicted, he was going to get a whole lot of money to leave in free agency and be somebody's starting quarterback. I remain a Cooper Rush fan, even though he didn't play great this year. But I assume now that he's a free agent again, somebody will give him a little better deal and shot elsewhere. So will Trey Lance be the backup to Dak next year? Very possibly. Bright spots. Obviously, going forward, we still have the greatest kicker in the history of pro football, Brandon Aubrey. I don't know what happened on that one kickoff where he yanked it left and hit the cheerleader and went so far out of bounds, but he set the single-season record for Cowboy field goals. He's got the greatest thunderfoot we've ever seen in the history of pro football. He will break the record at some point. He will make a 70-yard field goal at some point, and he's ours. Kevontae Turpin is ours. He's the best kick returner in all of football, and we got him, and we're starting to incorporate him a little more and a little more and a little more, not only in the passing game, but in the running game. Thank you very much. CeeDee Lamb is simply the best receiver in football. Obviously, he shut it down last couple of games, as he should have. Got a banged-up shoulder. I hope he doesn't need surgery. I think he's going to try to rehab it on his own. However you get it cleaned up, you got to get cleaned up because you're just entering your prime. We got that going for us. I tweeted today, I'm a big Caddyshack fan. The Bill Murray speech is Carl Spackler, with the sort of pitchfork tool in the throat of the other caddy, where he's making a speech about the llama, how he looped for the llama, was given total consciousness, and Bill Murray's classic line is, at least I got that going for me. Well, at least at least I have Brandon Aubrey and Kevontae Turpin and CeeDee Lamb going for me. I think I have Jake Ferguson going for me because he's not Kittle. I'm not saying he's going to challenge to be the best tight end in pro football, but he's pretty good, and he fights his ass off every single play. He gives you all he's got. So we got that going. Rico Dowdle emerged. I'm not saying he's going to change your life. I'm not saying he'd be Zeke in the first 2 or even 3 years, but he was pretty good. Today he was 22 carries for 72 yards. He's respectable. I would like to see an upgrade. Obviously, would I like to see Ashton Genty and Dallas? Sure, I would. Dallas Cowboy grew up in Frisco, right? Like within walking distance of the star. Jalen Tolbert flashed a little bit last couple of games. I don't love him, so we don't have that going for us. But we do have Maris Leofau, third-round pick this year, going for us, and he did lead them again in tackles today. And if you pair him with Overshown, if Overshown can ever get quite healthy, he's now had his knee wrecked twice. But you have two playmakers, two heat-seeking missiles on defense. I don't know about the offensive line. Tyler Guyton didn't do it for me today because he didn't do it for me in all those years I watched him at Oklahoma. I don't know. He's a project at 6'7". I told you this after he went late in the first round. There are other offensive linemen I would have taken. I don't want to beat the not quite dead horse there, but had another penalty today. They did have 11 penalties today, which, that's just coaching to me. Don't get me started. But Tyler Guyton, 6'7", 325. Can he grow into that body at some point? You better hope so, because Zach Martin is fading into the sunset as a cinch first ballot Hall of Famer. It's not going to be the same in the offensive line. And I do remind you, Dak Prescott did play in the first 3 home games this year. New Orleans, Baltimore, Detroit, don't get me started. And we were steamrolled and out of the game by halftime with Dak as the starting quarterback. And Micah played, I think, in the first couple of those games. And Dak and Michael played. Michael played against Green Bay in the playoff game at home last year. I still haven't gotten over that. It was 27-0 before halftime. So, I thought Trey Lance hung in there. If either of those late fourth quarter touchdown passes click and connect, maybe we win it. But Marcus Mariota is pretty good. And he looked very good in the fourth quarter and just took the game over and came back and made a great throw to McLaurin, who made a fine snatch of a catch. And what a momentum win that was for what was left of the Commanders. Obviously, Jaden Daniels didn't play in the second half. I've been won over by Jaden Daniels. He is it. He is he. He is him. The Commanders are going to be a problem for us for the next decade. I like everything about them, and I love their head coach because I want him to be my head coach. I love their ownership. I love their management. They scare the whole unholy hell out of me, do the Commanders. And what a great win, playing almost like half-hearted football until the bitter end, for them to come back and win the game and streak into the playoffs. Way to go, Commanders. Maybe I got to become a Commander fan. I don't know about giving Mike all that money. He had the sack early today, and then, I don't know. He's just not that guy. He's not even Trey Hendrickson I'm watching last night for the Bengals. He's not that guy. And now Jerry's he'll make it. I already predicted, he'll force him to miss all of minicamp, all of camp, and then they'll return to Dallas, and he will make him the highest paid defensive player in history and will be strapped with another big salary cap hit that he won't ever quite live up to, just like Zeke did, just like Dak has done twice now. It tears my guts out to watch this team. I predicted 8-9. I didn't think it would turn out this way. They went 7-10, and you can chalk some of it up to injuries and some of it up to terrible early performance by Zimmer's defense. And I can't quite get back on the bandwagon. And I was trying today, if they'd won the game and Trey had thrown a late touchdown pass, I was ready to jump back on the bandwagon with both feet. And now the bandwagon I'm going to ride into the playoffs belongs to Baker Mayfield. I told you I fought for him going into the draft. I said he would be better than Sam Darnold. He went first overall to Cleveland. He had a sensational rookie year. And then Odell came, and it all went to hell. Odell never clicked. Baker started getting beat up. Baker played the last year with all kinds of shoulder and rib injuries. And then he struggled in Carolina, and I just hung in and hung in and hung in. It's not easy, man, when you're taking this kind of beating. It's just not easy. And I hung in and I hung in, and I told you so. And look at Baker Mayfield now. He threw 2 balls late today against their arch rival, their division rival, the Saints, who had nothing to play for except pride and spoiler. And they almost pulled it off with a guy I watched a lot at Oklahoma, Spencer Rattler, at quarterback. But in the end, Baker said, no, not in my new house. No. Remember all those Baker's House commercials he did for Progressive in Cleveland? Fortunately, we don't have any more of those to paint the target bigger and bigger on Baker's back. But he made 2 late throws, one on 4th and 8 to McMillan, and then the touchdown throw on the run up through the pocket off the wrong foot, a laser into the right, to the pylon on the right side of the end zone to McMillan. Just sensational, all guts, all clutch throws by Baker Mayfield. Way to go, Baker. He willed that team into the playoffs, passed in Atlanta, which ultimately lost at home in overtime to Bryce Young, of all people. I love Bryce Young's character. I love his guts. I just love his competitiveness. He's obviously not the biggest kid, but he makes up for it with his heart, and he has a whip of an arm. And down the stretch, they game. Those last, 6-7 games, Bryce Young was really good. Bryce Young looked like, to me, a franchise quarterback you can build up on. And he took them right down the field in overtime. I didn't get to see the last play because it got cut off, last couple of plays. But he drove it home. He staked his claim on that job, on that franchise. Way to go, Bryce Young. Couldn't happen to a better young man. Baker Mayfield is clutch guts, all heart, wears his heart on both sleeves. Players love him. He got this rap in Cleveland as some kind of snot, bad guy, jerk, as the GM in Tampa sort of sarcastically called him. He's an asshole. Yeah, well, he's a good asshole in a good way. He's the kind of asshole you want on your team in your locker room running your huddle that the other team doesn't like, because he can get a little cocky, a little full of himself, but he's growing up right before your very eyes, and they're going to be a dangerous playoff team. So is Jaden Daniels' team. God, he's everything I would want at quarterback that I just don't think Dak Prescott will ever be. I'm still picking the Eagles. Still picking the Ravens. I'm still picking the Eagles over the Ravens. Got to hear what happened to that electric receiver, Zay. See how he turns out. Maybe he's just got a sprained knee. Maybe he'll just miss one playoff game. It will be the year of Lamar, but ultimately it will be the year of Jalen and Howie Roseman, the executive of the year. What happened to the 7-10 Cowboys, in the end, you can dump it all on Jerry's doorstep. I kept saying, what are you doing, Jerry? Somebody wake him up. He did next to nothing in free agency. He didn't go get a running back in the draft when they were begging to be taken. Blake Corum. How can you not take Blake Corum? Begging. In the end, I'm just glad the Cowboy season is over, and I can't wait for Baker Mayfield's season to start.